Before decorum breaks and a single touch changes everything, make sure you're still here. Subscribe to Emo Saga for stories where power hides in plain sight, and intimacy begins where it's least allowed. The hall smells like polished wood and expensive restraint. That's the first thing I notice as I step inside. How quiet everything feels, despite the number of people present. Men in tailored suits, women in muted dresses. Conversations kept deliberately low, as if sound itself might disrupt the balance of the room. This isn't a place for mistakes, which makes it the worst possible place for what happens next. I'm only here because my supervisor begged. Last-minute replacement, seating protocol, handing out folders, small, forgettable tasks meant to keep me invisible during the board's formal vote. Don't draw attention, she'd said. Blend in. I intend to. I really do. I'm walking past the front row when I see it. A man standing alone near the dais, reviewing notes with quiet focus. Tall, immaculate suit. Everything about him controlled down to the angle of his shoulders, except his tie. It's off. Not dramatically, just enough to look wrong. Crooked night. Slightly loose. The kind of thing no one else would dare point out. I hesitate. This isn't my job. But protocol matters here. Appearances matter. And if this vote is as important as everyone says, he shouldn't look careless in front of the room. I glance around. No one is close enough to help. Everyone else is pretending not to notice. I inhale once and step forward. Excuse me, I say quietly. He looks up. Dark eyes. Calm. Assessing. Yes. Your tie, I say, lowering my voice. It's slightly off. His gaze flicks downward, then back to me. So it is. He doesn't move. Doesn't fix it himself. Just waits. The pause stretches. I realize too late that I've created a moment where only two options exist. Walk away and let him fix it. Or, may I? I ask softly, already knowing I shouldn't. His jaw tightens just slightly. Then he nods. Yes. I step closer. Too close. Close enough that I can smell him. Clean understated, something darker beneath it. My fingers lift, hovering for half a second before touching silk. The contact sends an unexpected awareness up my arm. Ridiculous. It's just a tie. I focus on the knot, adjusting it carefully, trying not to think about the fact that my knuckles brush his chest. He stays completely still, watching. You're very calm, he says quietly. I swallow. I'm not. A faint curve touches his mouth. Interesting. I tug gently, tightening the knot, smoothing the fabric. My fingers linger a fraction of a second too long. The room feels closer now, more aware of us. There, I murmur. That should do it. I step back immediately, heart racing. He looks down once more, then back at me. Thank you, he says. You're welcome, I reply quickly. I should go. Yes, he agrees. But his eyes don't leave mine. I return to my assigned spot near the wall, pulse still uneven. That was nothing. A courtesy. A moment that will vanish the second the meeting begins. Except, I can still feel the warmth of him on my fingers. And when the room shifts, when conversations fade and everyone takes their seats, he doesn't sit. He remains standing. At the center, the chairwoman clears her throat. Shall we begin? The room straightens, folds into itself. I glance toward the man whose tie I just fixed, and realize something unsettling. No one looks at the chairwoman when she speaks. They look at him. The vote starts. Formal language. Carefully rehearsed statements. I follow along on my clipboard, checking off steps, still trying to slow my breathing. Then, a name is mentioned. Bis, and the room seems to pause. We'll defer to Mr. Hale, someone says. My stomach tightens. Mr. Hale. I didn't know his name. He steps forward, voice calm, authoritative without effort. I believe we've heard enough, he says. Let's proceed. And they do. Just like that. My pen freezes in my hand. This isn't a discussion. It's confirmation. He doesn't argue. He decides. The realization hits me all at once. I didn't adjust the tie of a participant. I adjusted the tie of the man who determines the outcome. The one everyone waits for. The one no one interrupts. My chest tightens. I replay the moment, my hands on his chest, the way he watched without stopping me. The permission. The control. The vote concludes swiftly. Predictably. Applause breaks out, restrained, respectful. People stand. Conversations resume with careful enthusiasm. I stay frozen near the wall. Until he turns and looks directly at me. He doesn't smile, doesn't wave, just inclines his head slightly, acknowledging, claiming. My heart stutters. I look away first. I shouldn't have touched him. I shouldn't have spoken. I shouldn't be memorable in a room like this. But when the crowd begins to disperse, a quiet voice speaks beside me. You did well. I flinch. He's there. Close again. How? I stop myself. Thank you. You weren't afraid, he says. I meet his gaze despite myself. I was. But you didn't hesitate, he replies. That matters. To who? To him? I didn't realize who you were, I say carefully. He nods. That was clear. And now, he says, voice low. You're aware. The word settles heavily between us. I should return to my duties, I say. Yes, he agrees again. But he doesn't move away. Neither do I. Tell me something, he says quietly. If you had known, would you still have fixed my tie? The question is dangerous, because the answer surprises me. Yes, I say. Something shifts in his expression. Not satisfaction. Interest. That, he says softly, is rare. Before I can respond, someone calls his name. He steps back smoothly. The moment breaks. But not completely. As he walks away, I realize something terrifying. In a room where power decides everything, I touched it, and it let me. The hall empties slowly. Not all at once, power never leaves in a rush. It dissolves in handshakes, murmured congratulations, quiet exits through side doors meant for people who don't wait. I remain where I am longer than necessary, pretending to review notes I don't need. My hands are steady now, but my thoughts aren't. If you had known, would you still have fixed my tie? Yes. The answer still echoes. I'm halfway down the corridor when I hear my name. Not spoken loudly. Not called out. Just said with certainty. I turn. He's standing at the threshold of a smaller conference room. Jacket off now, sleeves rolled neatly to his forearms. The formality has softened, but the authority hasn't. Walk with me, he says. Not an order. A decision that assumes consent. I hesitate only long enough to register that no one else is watching. Then I nod. The room he leads me into is quieter than the hall. Paneled walls, muted lighting. A long table untouched since the vote concluded. The door closes behind us with a soft, deliberate sound. Still not locked. That detail matters more than I expected. You shouldn't be alone with me, I say. A faint smile touches his mouth. And yet, he replies, you are. He doesn't move closer. Doesn't crowd me. Just stands opposite, resting one hand lightly against the back of a chair. You look like someone deciding whether to be honest, he observes. I exhale. I'm deciding whether honesty is safe. That depends, he says calmly. On what you think honesty costs. I meet his gaze. You control outcomes. Yes. And rooms, I add. Frequently. And people listen when you speak. They choose to. I shake my head slightly. That feels like semantics. Power always does, he replies. Silence stretches. Not uncomfortable. Charged. You didn't apologize, he says after a moment. For what? For touching me, he answers. Most people would. I swallow. I didn't think it was inappropriate. And now, I admit, I'm not sure what's appropriate around you. His eyes darken, not with threat but with interest. That's fair, he says. Then let's define it. He gestures to the chair beside him, not the one across the table. Sit, he says. Again inviting. I move slowly, deliberately, choosing the seat. The proximity is closer than before. Our knees almost align, a breath apart. You're not in trouble, he continues. Nothing you did crossed a line. I touched the man who decides votes, I say. He tilts his head. You adjusted a tie. You didn't influence the outcome. I didn't know that. Exactly. I study his face, the restraint, the control, the lack of urgency. Why ask me that question? I ask. About whether I'd still have fixed it. Because your answer tells me something, he replies. What? Whether you're drawn to authority, he says, or indifferent to it. And which am I? He watches me closely. Indifferent. The word lands heavier than praise. You could have stopped me, I say quietly. Yes. But you didn't. No. Why? He answers without hesitation. Because you didn't see a title. You saw a detail out of place, and corrected it. That's a very generous interpretation. It's accurate. I shift slightly, suddenly aware of how close we are. I don't want this to be misunderstood, I say. Neither do I. And I don't want to feel like something happened without your choosing, he finishes. I nod. Then let me be clear, he says. Nothing has happened yet. Yet. The word sits between us, dangerous and deliberate. He leans back slightly, giving me space. You didn't ask for my name earlier, he says. I didn't think I was allowed. You are now. I hesitate. Mr. Hale, I begin. He shakes his head gently. Not that one. I inhale. Ethan. He nods. Good. We sit like that for a moment, two people finally stripped of roles, titles folded neatly out of sight. This isn't something I do often, he says. What isn't? Meeting people where power is irrelevant, he replies. It's rare. I smile faintly. That sounds lonely. It can be, he admits. Unless someone reminds you that power doesn't negate humanity. And I did that, I say. You did, he confirms. A knock sounds at the door. He glances at it once. 5 minutes, he says calmly. The knock retreats. I raise an eyebrow. They wait for you. They always do. And yet you're here. Yes. The implication settles slowly. I should go, I say, though I don't stand. He doesn't argue. I won't stop you. But you'll remember me, I add. He meets my gaze. I already do. I rise, smoothing my skirt. The moment feels like it's narrowing, either ending or becoming something else. Before I leave, I say, answer one more thing. He gestures for me to continue. If I hadn't touched you, I ask, would you have noticed me at all? He considers. Then answers honestly. Yes. That surprises me. How? You were watching the room instead of yourself, he says. That's not common. I nod slowly. Then this wasn't an accident, I say. No, he agrees. It was an intersection. I take a step back. Good night, Ethan. Good night, he replies. On your terms. Weeks pass. Nothing happens. No messages. No invitations. No unexpected appearances. I assume correctly that if something is to happen, it won't be forced into existence. Then one evening I receive an email. No subject line. Just a single sentence. May I ask you to dinner, without ties, votes, or titles involved. No signature. But I know. I reply. Yes. On one condition. The response is immediate. Name it. You don't decide the restaurant. A pause. Then. Agreed. Dinner is quiet. Public. Ordinary in all the ways that matter. He listens more than he speaks. Doesn't steer the conversation. Doesn't perform authority. And when I reach across the table, this time deliberately, to adjust his cuff, he stills. Waits. May I? I ask. He nods. Yes. That's when I understand. Power isn't what made him compelling. Restraint is. And the most dangerous thing about the man who controls outcomes, he never once tried to control me. Sometimes intimacy begins with permission. Sometimes with awareness. And sometimes with a single unexpected touch that reminds power it is still human.